Tiger's not on the golf course, but he's still making news. And it's going to sound like the entire show is about Tiger, but he is everywhere right now in the media world. He's on the Today Show. He is got a special invite to the U.S. Open. And will he or will he not be the Ryder Cup captain for 2025? I'm with two PGA members. Maybe they got a special insight. Maybe they don't. But joining me today on the panel, Mr. Reimagine Golf, Boston Bob Baldassari. Bobby, we're going back to Boston because it's playoff hockey time. So I'm throwing a little shout out to Beantown.
It is playoff hockey time.
There you go. Love it. There you go.
And we are wicked excited.
And my other panelist this evening, you know him as Mr. Little Linksters, but you read his stuff everywhere. Now columnist Brendon Elliott. Good evening. We're recording on Thursday. There's a lot of action going on. Just a lot of random stuff. It's going to be a random show, guys. I mean, we don't have that one cutting edge topic that's going to be just dominating. My dogs are barking crazily in the background if anybody can hear them. But that's the life I live. So, hey.
We lead with the dogs.
Yeah, well, that should be a Cleveland thing. I'm in Philly, so we just throw snowballs at Santa Claus. All right, boys. So I mentioned Tiger. He's everywhere. What do you got?
I was anxious for the drop of the clothing line. And it's good stuff. It looks good. It's trendy. It's a lot of those lightweight hoodies and some higher end tees, and there's bucket hats, which I'm super excited about. But one of the things, and I was telling AD Bobby before we got on, my only thing initially was when I'm looking at price points on these things, and I'm like, why does it have to be so damn expensive? $50 for a bucket hat and $150 for a hoodie. I mean, it's the way of the world now, I guess, but guys like Tiger or Jordan, they could come in a little bit under. They're not hurting for money. So that was my only bad thing. But I do love everything that came out. Did you guys look at it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, Bobby, as I said to BE, you could clearly tell that Tiger's designing this for the golfer away from the golf course. It's not. It's the casual male. It's the mid-age casual male. You know, hey, untuck it. Oh, different clothesline. Sorry.
It sounds like you, the casual.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you.
It is
the
me.
Casual male. Yeah. No, I thought I didn't do the deep dive per se, but yeah, Brendan, I thought the same thing. The first thing was pretty interesting line, off course, appealing to the off course golfer, trying to get the off course golfer interested in golf. Maybe could be, but yeah, that price point, it's like holy cow. I started thinking about the Michael Jordan, the Air Jordans. And when they started being 100, 200, 300, I mean, people are paying hundreds of dollars for these sneakers. It's like, really? I don't know what's up there. It would be right, or it'd be nice if it was moderately priced. Maybe you can get the youth, hopefully, to buy more of the stuff. And then the logo is interesting because it does draw some comparisons back to the Puma logo. But yeah, it's just interesting that the price point was. I don't know, but yeah, everything in golf now. I mean, I grew up when it was you had your golf attire on the golf course, and then you changed and you had your your street clothes. And
what do you get? What do you get? A bowl of soup with a hat like?
Oh yeah.
Hey, look on you.
Different now. I mean, Keith Mitchell on the tour, he's a fashiony guy. There's a lot of nice fashion out there that you can go from course to into the 19th hole type of thing, back and forth, but. It's going to be interesting. I mean, Tiger's Tiger is probably going to be pretty popular line.
Yeah.
At least initially.
Yeah.
I mean, my read on it is it's all about mainstream retail. Golf course is going to be an afterthought. And for the guys that pushed the mock turtleneck into the golf world, I think he's going to push this. I mean, the hoodies and what have you are already here, Rory's donning that. We'll talk about Rory later, but I think he's going to push, his casual wear right down the golf establishment and say, take it.
Tiger comes out with Sansa belts and bell bottoms and, the mock. I mean, if you look at some of the golf history photos, you got Arnie, Jack, Tony Lima, Weiskopf. I mean, in the 50s, 60s, Hogan, they're wearing that mock. They're wearing that style. And all of a sudden, Tiger brings it out. Everybody's like, oh my God, it doesn't have a collar. It's like, wait a minute, that's been around for decades.
No, AD, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I wasn't even considering that when I first looked at it. Is like when you take a look at all Jordan's line, I mean, most people that buy that stuff aren't basketball players, and I guess that's the unique thing about golf is we are golfers, so but it's become more lifestyle oriented than anything. A lot of the trendy lines that are out there are way more lifestyle than they are for practicality, for playing the game.
I was sporting my Air Jordans in the late 1980s, just sand. I mean, untied, of course.
Oh, yes. Laces hanging out.
Laces hanging out, yeah.
The tongue kind of pressed down.
Absolutely. That was me. Because I'm the casual male, Bobby.
I think you are the casual male. Yeah, maybe your new nickname. I think it was 90 or 91 when Ashworth came out, and that was, that was looked at, wait a minute, soft collars. So that I think, to me, that Ashworth was sort of that first really strong brand that came out and started to move that needle just a little bit into more casual, wear it off the course for those historians out there.
Hey, shameless deviation. I'm just going to throw this in there. It popped up on Ashworth popped up recently on a search I was doing. And I started looking. They've got some really good stuff right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got some really good stuff. And then here's another one. I'm deviating. My apologies, guys. But when I was at the show this year, I may have even said this before. First time ever, FootJoy apparel outsold golf shoes in dollars.
Wow.
There you go.
I love the FootJoy stuff. FootJoy, Donald Ross, and Peter Millar. They're my three go-to shirts.
They're for the casual male.
They're perfect for the casual male.
That is your new nickname. The casual male.
You're just casual Allen.
That could go viral.
It could. So I'm going to stop now. Be nice. I'm going to jump to a place that's fairly casual, laid back. Let's talk about Pinehurst. Let's talk about the aforementioned Tiger Woods. Big news today is what, BE?
Well, he got a special invite. However, and I wanted to discuss this with you guys, all the majors have their different, list of ways people get in. Did he? Obviously he did, but it's kind of shocking that he needed a special invite being Tiger Woods. I didn't know that he didn't have anything that would keep him from not playing.
But our resident historian, can you recall or recant the eligibility requirements for the various Masters is always, right? Obviously, we know that. Open Championship is up to age 60. You're in. PGA is now always, or is that similar following? You guys would know better than I.
Yeah, they're following with an age limit. Masters has a sort of I think you get a letter from the chairman about, I think it's time for you to.
I told B, I got a letter, but we'll get to
gracefully.
We'll get to
exit, yeah. But so Tiger's exemption has expired, so they don't have an age, something like the Open Championship has. So yeah, that was in an interesting area for Tiger, but I think it's merited. I think if there's a course out there, it's relatively flat. He's got the imagination around the greens. He's been there, done that. I don't know about winning it, but I think he can acquit himself pretty well and have a pretty good tournament and do okay. And obviously, I think they got to look at it from the ratings and sponsors and branding, and that's going to move the needle a little bit too. So good call.
Something's got to save the rating show, BE, because the
Yeah.
ratings are plummeting. And literally, again, before we hit record, that Bobby's talking, regurgitating our conversation. I think if there's a golf course, a U.S. Open golf course, that Tiger can have an opportunity to compete, maybe not win, but compete. It's Pinehurst with this new natural native areas where he's going to find his golf ball when it goes off the rails. And he's still got the greatest creativity around the greens, bar none. You agree?
If he plays anywhere close to what he did on Thursday and Friday at Augusta, then he will be in good shape going into the weekend. But we all know the long play for him, the 4 days. Hopefully there's no weather issues. It's going to be hot because it's middle of June. Is it June? Yeah.
Yep.
So all those things are in his favor, the things that tested him on the weekend at Augusta. So who knows?
Bobby, have you had the pleasure of playing Pinehurst, number 2?
I have not played 2.
Didn't you? I thought you and Pam had gotten up there.
Yeah, we did even a year or a couple of years ago. We didn't get to play 2. We played 4, a couple others. I've played there a few times. The Cradle, obviously, and
Which is crazy to me is going to be the parking lot or the driving something like
driving
that.
range. Yeah. Cradle's going to be driving range. You can put up netting around it. I think the corporate hospitality will be on the existing driving range. So you're going to make some changes, but it's just I think maybe Tiger's a historian. He loves the history of the game. A ton of history there, so I can see him playing really well. I do. Like BE mentioned about the warmth and the heat, and he likes that, and the terrain, relatively very walkable for him. So I expect he'll have a pretty decent tournament.
Little sidebar, gentlemen, has the Hall of Fame moved up there? It's now open, or is that still in the works?
When I was there last summer, I went over to Pinehurst to grab a drink at the Deuce, and I mean the building's all set. I don't know if they've formally moved in and made the transition.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it'd be good timing. I remember it used to be there. I went there, I think in 81 maybe. We had a college event there. I remember going in there. So it's probably a good spot that it'll be. But be good timing if they could open it for sure by the Open. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I hate it keeps popping up. I'm just going to say what's on my mind. I'm going to do that moment, right? Even though I shouldn't. Can you imagine Tiger comes to the 71st hole, which is the par 3. It goes down, it tee up down, up, back up a hill, and then you tee off 18, all uphill, and he's he's just dragging himself up the 18th hole, up a hill. Talk about great theater, and it's Tiger.
Hey, if anybody could, reach into the proverbial magic bag and pull something out, I think the physicality is one thing. I think the course can fit him. You're gonna make, you gotta always make some putts, get a little bit of luck, but from a brain cells and mindset and working his way around there and not being freaked out if he make a couple of bogeys because he's been there, I think he can do pretty well. It was funny. Some nights I can't sleep and I'm watching some YouTube and came across Jack's 1986. It was sort of the highlight of his back nine, and I can't watch that enough. But sometimes you forget little things, and even that 18th hole, his approach shot in there, it hit that little bit of a ridge and comes back. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, that's right. He had that long putt, and I thought, oh no, is he going to 3-putt? He almost made it.
Yeah.
And forget about that. And then Norman blocked it way right on 18. I mean, that's just a thrill.
Again, deviating, apologies. What strikes me about that 86, because I like probably you guys, I was camped out in a golf shop in a back room watching a grainy TV. I probably had rabbit ears. And Jack hit all the shots, obviously. Yes, sir. But it's Seve yanking the hell out of that second shot on 15 into the water.
Yeah.
And it's Norman flaring it dead right into the gallery on 18 and not getting it up and down. Those as much as Jack's exploit, those ones stood out to me.
I was 11, and that I remember the whole tournament vividly because that was really, I had been playing golf for a few years, but you don't really digest stuff when you're, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. But that I remember, especially that final round, every shot. But what I wanted to pose is a question to you guys based on where Jack was with his game in '86. Where would you compare Tiger at 48 or 47, whatever he is, from a physical standpoint, where the game is now? Is there any parallels to that?
Well, I mean, I was just watching it last night, and you could say physically Jack was not Tiger.
No.
At the time. He's using persimmon woods. You look where the 18th tee was and sort of tee shots, and you just go, wow, they've really moved it back. But even though I said he's physically not looking like Tiger, physically he's better than Tiger at that point. I think if you draw some parallels, he doesn't have the injuries.
Right.
I think it's all about Tiger's leg, and if he can physically walk it, from the kneecaps up or whatever, Tiger's Tiger. He's got the hands around the greens. But to watch Jack too, I mean, I was watching some of those shots he hit with the irons, and you just tell like there was so much softness in the arms going through impact. That was the one thing that I never really noticed before. BE, like, just sometimes you're in a tournament, you're tensing, you're going fast, you're going quick, you're sweeping up a little fast. Jack's arms through impact and just softness of the finish. I'm watching that going, wow, I never noticed that before.
It's so funny you mentioned that. This is something I've said to my kids many times over the last 2 weeks is I've said lazy arms, lazy hands, let the rotation of the body kind of drive the swing. And when they let that thought and that feeling kind of work together, they hit a lot of quality shots. So it's a good point you made.
Well, before yes, sir, on 17, how about Vern, Jack? This is, I think it was Weiskopf posed the question, in his mind right now. Jack, this is your time. Make the swing you're capable of swinging, and just in essence, just swing the club.
I think that was a time when, was it Nance or somebody said to Weiskopf, "What do you think Jack's thinking?" And there was a pause.
If I'd said that, I would have. Yeah, no doubt.
Right.
Yeah, Mike was like, if I knew what he was thinking, I would have won more tournaments, majors. Yeah, classic.
Bobby, I got to throw this one just to finish up with Pinehurst. What we're not going to have happen this year is we're not going to have Woods paired with Woods.
Yeah.
Because we were chatting about this also, is that little Charlie made his attempt to try to qualify for the the U.S. Open. I got ahead of myself. At a place well, the Legacy.
Yep, very well.
Fired a little 81, 9 over par, and this is where we were joking about the letter, because I got my letter. The U.S. Open is only for players that are capable of competing at the highest levels. We wish you to consider playing again in the future. Paraphrase, that's not burned on my memory, B.
Bobby, do you think he's getting a little burned out?
You mean Charlie?
Yeah.
It's a valid question. You wonder the intensity of what he's going through, the intensity of the scrutiny, and if he's, I don't know, if he's Charlie Woodfield or something and just goes to play, I think it's different. I'm drawing an immensely huge gulf here. Believe me, I'm telling you, there don't even draw parallels. But what I can tell you is, my dad being a PGA pro and me coming up behind him when I would start playing in state opens, tournaments that meant something, bigger things. I felt a lot of pressure living up to my dad, and that's just a microcosm of PGA pro up in New England and Massachusetts. So I'm empathetic about what he's going through, only because, like, I lived it in that little small sample with my dad, who was a really good player, and I felt like, oh my God, my score is going to be in the Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, and I shot 79, and like, oh, am I going to be embarrassed? Like, I get it. Like, I really do. So there's got to be some crazy pressure. It may be self-inflicted on him.
Yep.
His dad's the best ever, really, by many accounts. So, yeah, it's got to be tough. I mean, and we talked about this before. It's a crying shame. Just let him be a kid. Let him play golf. Let him stumble and figure it out like we all did. But he just doesn't have that luxury.
But Bobby, I was saying to BE is, and I made the mistake. My oldest was a very good hockey goalie. At his age group, he was regarded as a good hockey goalie, and I pushed him. I pushed him up to juniors. They put him on the bench, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it worked completely in the opposite direction, as opposed to one of the things I think that was spectacular about Tiger and Earl. Well, there's, I don't know, a lot of good things about Earl, but it was spectacular about Tiger was he dominated his age bracket until he got to levels, yes, did he play in the LA Open? Yes. But he stayed back in juniors until he dominated and he learned to win. And you got to learn to win, right, B?
Oh yeah, there's winning is, well, let me back up a little bit. I talked about my student Sebastian last show that I was on, and him going super low and shooting a course record and winning the tournament. When you dip your toe into that world where you're shooting subpar and you're really playing golf, that in and of itself creates pressure that you didn't have before.
Yep.
So there's just so many layers with this game. And what, Bob, you telling your story about your dad, I think any kid that grew up with a father that played the game, good, bad, indifferent. My dad was a low single digit player. It's always going to be there hanging over your head, whether the parents doing everything they should do as a parent and just be a fan of you. But I felt the pressure as a kid too, and it was self-inflicted. And I think that's probably what Charlie's going through, because the emotions of a 16-year-old, 15-year-old, they're just trying to figure shit out about life, let alone be under a microscope in the golf world, which is brutal on social media. So,
yeah. I mean, it's a lot of pressure on that kid, I guess, even if you want to be an architect, it's probably going to be like, well, there's correlation of what your dad did,
and
no
then
matter what.
And then you got to back to social media, and you got the media in general. You got a 16-year-old just today that shoots. He went sea turtle low at the CG Cup, right?
yep.
You have a 15-year-old making the cut at the on the Corn Ferry Tour. So I mean, there's pressure. He's got to literally. I'd love to ask him the question. Tiger would never allow us to ask him the question, but the question would be, when you lay down in bed at night, you literally just sit there and go, I got to get better than these guys because my dad's my dad.
Well, and then I think there's probably a big assumption like, okay, you've got the best of everything. You probably have the best of the teachers, the condition, the clubs, the everything. So bang, why aren't you shooting 59 every time?
Yeah.
I think back to Gary Nicklaus in that playoff with Mickelson, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he was right there on the cusp, but that was like the only time that he even sniffed winning on the PGA Tour. So you think about the pressure that Gary had,
Oh, then he had more pressure when he ends up on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I think it's 16.
Yeah.
Back when Sports Illustrated was Sports Illustrated.
When they actually reported?
Yeah, I mean, you look forward to that every week, and it's a different time and place, I know. And if anybody young's listening, it was an awesome excitement to get that in the mailbox. And oh my goodness, but yeah, sad to see what's happened there.
So one last Tiger thing before we're going to deviate away from that, which is there is speculation, there is question marks looming. The PGA of America is, again, you guys can chime in, they're behind their normal timeline for naming the captain for the Ryder Cup at Bethpage. And there is speculation running rampant, social media, that is because it's going to be Tiger. What say you?
Well, they are behind. Typically by February, they would have named the captain and they would have started them on this PR campaign and go to basketball games, go to this, go to that. Yeah, but I think a lot of, you can look on one side and go intelligently, yeah, it makes sense for Tiger to be the captain. It's New York, the whole thing coming back from a loss. Yep, I get it. The other thing is, yeah, Brendon and I are PJ members. I worked headquarters. I know the inner workings. So there's a lot of pressure on the captain on this PR side. You've got to pick out the clothing and this and that. But I think, yeah, Tiger's probably thinking that would be a lot of fun. That'd be the ultimate competition, Ryder Cup in New York with the New York fans. But I don't think he wants to make the decision now. I just don't think he wants to deal with all the extracurricular stuff. So he's probably slow playing it a little bit. And then he's good friends with this guy, PJ McManus, who owns Dare Manor, where the Ryder Cup would be over in Ireland in a couple of years. Like maybe he'd rather do that. I don't know. His Ryder Cup record, ironically enough, is poor. It's really bad, knowing Tiger. So at the end of the day, it'd be potentially, I don't know. I mean, like, who else is going to be in New York? What other player can handle that New York pressure?
They'd probably have to pull from past captains that figured stuff out, like an Azinger, maybe. I don't know where he sits anymore. But you would have to think Tiger would be the choice. But think about what you were saying, Bobby, the pressure. I mean, what if Netflix is following him around too? Because those episodes of this past season, Full Swing, were phenomenal when they were following the Ryder Cuppers around. So Tiger's not open like that. You know what I mean? Have we ever had a camera follow him around, for multiple hours?
I'll tell you something else too, that I'm just sitting here thinking, but there was a different time and place in my life with what I thought I might do career-wise. And just as far as I wasn't going to go work for the PGA America, I was back in Virginia. I was section president, and my plan was to run for national board and potentially my buddy John Lindert is president of PGA right now. John and I sat next to each other at PGA meetings. We looked at each other one time years ago, and John goes, "Are you going to run for national office?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, you run and then I'll run." John ended up running. He's the current president now. So I wonder, like, who the heck knows? Not that I say I would get elected, but I could have been in that room right now. And I'd rather be on a podcast with you guys, believe me. But it's just, I think about that. Like, what's your thought process? I mean, I think a few years ago, Mickelson was the odds-on favorite,
right?
But he's out of the picture. So I mean, Azinger makes sense. It's almost like, do you go the other way to go Steve Stricker again, because he might just be immune to all this stuff? And I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah,
I thought Watson was good. I thought
Phil would have been great with his brash attitude for New York. That would have carried it really well. But a loss. He did. I'm sitting here speculation running rampant in my mind and saying, was the whole Sunday Red talk show rotunda there that he just went on, was that all in prep for getting ready to go sit with Jimmy Kimmel and Fallon and talking about the Ryder Cup?
Could be.
Meaning Tiger, obviously.
I think they make a surprise move and go with that Club Pro guy.
They could. They could indeed. They could indeed. Sad news today, BE.
Yep.
One of your fellow columnists and one of our greats of the game. We all enjoyed listening to him.
Yeah, Peter Oosterhout died, 75 years old. He was a Masters, one of the guys we talk about, Vern, and him retiring this year, but we're losing a lot of those good voices from the Masters, particularly.
I believe it was Oosterhouse. Wasn't he on the call for the Ryder Cup in where was the hell was it played? The Belfry? when when the U.S. kept plummeting, just pumping golf balls in the water on 18. Nobody could keep it dry. I think he was.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, I may be wrong on that, but our condolences to him. The game of golf has actually we've lost another really good one, and that was some sad news this afternoon. Who was not sad was Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry. Bobby, those Irish boys know how to party.
Indeed, they do. I can't do an Irish accent, but
That's pretty good.
yeah, they were. I mean, I've been a big Shane Lowry fan for years. I mean,
Me too.
I appreciated his play. I appreciated really a lot about the guy he is. I don't know him, but I would see him when I worked at the PGA of America, go to championship and this and that. And I would see him and see how he treated people. And I just thought, that's a good mate right there. He's a good bloke. And then he wins the Open Championship and that whole celebration, what he did, I'm like, that's my guy. I love that guy. And I don't know. And so, yeah. And then after the team event, him and Rory come back and win. And that was a riot. That was like, I think for him, like ho hum, but for Rory, a little bit into his uncomfortable zone. But that was a blast. I wish that would happen more often. I mean, let's just put your hair down and relax and be human.
I love
does that, I know it's a team event, right? But does that give Rory that mojo that maybe he's been missing, that, hey, I can get it done again still? Because he really hasn't gotten it done.
No, I yes and no. I think what's gonna carry him forward more than the play and winning the event was how he did let his hair down afterwards, and he laughed and he had a good time. And you got to think of everything that he's
had a good time, all
through.
right.
Oh yeah, you just got to think everything he's been through with this live stuff and the backpedaling of the tour and him being in the spotlight. The guy's had a lot of pressure on. So for me, the first thing I thought of when I watched his rendition of REO Speedwagon's greatest hits, I was just like, good for you, man. Good for you for having fun and letting loose and letting people, see you in a different light. I think that's what's, from a mental standpoint, is going to help him, start getting it done more often.
Yeah, I think, winning's winning and it is team related, but I think that does help. Yeah, it's just something about winning. I mean, and I know there's some splitting hairs on if that should be, some people think tour wins, that's a team win versus individual. But aside from that, I just think the mentality of, oh, I won is definitely going to help them.
I concur. All right, boys. 18th. Final thoughts. BE. Let's go. Let's start with you.
I think I'm going to take a mulligan, as Bobby did last week, because I'm not ready.
All right. So that Bobby doesn't steal, I'm going to jump on this. It has been reported that all of Team Brooksy is apparently going to be attempting to qualify for the U.S. Open if they are not eligible, except for Taylor Gooch.
The Gooch man.
The Gooch man.
One guy that I actually really liked more than Taylor Gooch that is making a bigger ass out of himself lately with some of his just stuff. Come on, Taylor, you're better than that. You are a talent in the golfing community. I hate the fact that you went to live, but come on. Bobby?
Well, yeah, we got lots of Taylor stuff out there, but I thought you were going to talk about Taylor Swift.
Gooch or Swift?
No, I'm just
that's a different Philadelphia sports team.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, that's Kansas City. My bad.
Now, I wanted to give a shout out to a young lady that I first met when she was 6 years old. Her parents came into my golf shop in Ocean City, Maryland, and they got a little 6-year-old girl with one club, a little 7-iron, and said, "Do you mind if we go play and have her ride along?" I said, "Absolutely." And this was in the late 90s. And so she comes out time and time again. I get to know the family, the husband, the wife. Mike and Alicia Conley, and I'm in Ocean City, Maryland. They didn't play any other courses. They kept coming back to my course because I let them go on the course with their little daughter, Stephanie, who was 6. Well, I can't take any credit for anything other than I know Stephanie, I'm her biggest fan, and she ended up going to Ohio State, gave the PGA Tour a try, made the PGA of America's Junior Ryder Cup, and she did really amazing in the PGA National Championship. So I think the world of Stephanie Conley. She's married now, Stephanie Conley, Iceworth, living up in North Florida. So remarkable player, remarkable person, and what she's doing to teach the game to young people and as a coach, and just really, really amazing how well she's played. She still calls me Mr. Bob, which is crazy. But she did really well this week at the PGA National Championship. So I just want to know I'm her biggest fan, and keep going.
Good story. BE, you're back on the tee.
I'm gonna dovetail on Bobby's remarks. You know, I love watching our fellow PGA of America professionals as they compete in the PGA National Championship. Unique designs at that course is at Frisco. But it's really cool to see some of your fellow professionals that you know and have been around for many, many years. I'm thinking specifically in our North Florida section of Rod Perry, who's won the tournament before. He is just a standout golf professional up in our section. And he had his son Carson on the bag with him. And Carson was a DCP finalist last year at Augusta. So, you know, everything coming full circle with Dad being his caddy at Augusta National for drive, chip, and putt finals, and then Carson being on the bag for his dad this week down in Frisco. So that was pretty cool.
Cheers.
Good symmetry.
And it's always, and we're obviously hoping for another storybook Cinderella opportunity at this year's PGA Championship. Boys, I don't have anything else. We just kind of freewheeled it this week. So I bid you adieu until next week.
I do.
Like playing with one club.
Nice.